with videos in like a ARC Academy type format, so that they can go through different modules and get training on various topics, from health insurance to waivers to IEPs to what's a behavior plan, what's an FBA. So we're working on doing all that and getting that up and running.
Seems like as soon as you said technical difficulties, we had one. We lost it for a second.
Yeah, and then I talked with my hands and I ripped my earbuds out because I do this a lot, and I need to just sit on my hands for something.
So what exactly would somebody contact the ARC about? Like, what all do you guys cover?
We help families with any type of intellectual or developmental disability, including autism, from birth to grave. So they can contact us for information on early intervention. We work with First Steps to get families information on that. Children's special health care, we help families get connected to them and get information on that. Medicaid waivers, we work very closely with the folks at FSSA and Medicaid to help families understand the Medicaid system, the waiver system, the health insurance piece of Medicaid, and how to apply for those, what services are under those. We have a trust department that helps families with financial planning for their loved ones, so that as they're planning, doing their kind of life planning for their loved one with a disability, that they can set up their financial situation so that their loved one's Medicaid or Social Security is not in jeopardy because of having too many assets and those kinds of things. School issues and working on IEPs and trying to troubleshoot some of those issues. We talked to a lot of folks about school, especially with COVID, and trying to navigate that special education through COVID. So we do help with that. We help with the health insurance piece, helping families with appeals or kind of understanding what's going on with their health insurance, and also trying to, if their child has an employer-based insurance through the family, and then Medicaid on top of that, how do those two things fit together? We help families with finding housing. We help families with justice system issues. We've helped soup to nuts, basically. You name it, we try to help.
You're on mute, Denise.
I'm started the recording again, so
Okay,
I'm not sure where you left off. I apologize.
I picked up the recording when you left, so I think I'm
awesome.
Recording.
Okay.
So we're good.
It'll be fun putting this together.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say, you are gonna have a great time editing this one.
I think she said this in the meantime, but then she goes here. So you were talking about like the waivers. So
Yeah.
you know, our support group is people with, you know, the aggression and the self-injury. So a lot of them are probably going to target that CIH waiver.
Right.
All I've heard, and my daughter did get it, but all I've heard is it's more money. It's more money. Like, what exactly is the difference? Like, what exactly can you get?
Sure. Well, the difference between the CIH waiver, kind of the short answer to the difference between the CIH waiver and the family supports waiver, or the FSW, is that the FSW is the same budget for everyone who is on it, regardless of severity, diagnosis, you know, just same budget. Everybody gets this amount of money to do with what they need to for whatever waiver services are available and that they want. The CIH waiver is different in the sense that it is based on need. And so when you apply for the CIH waiver, part of the process is going through an evaluation of need, and then there's a score that's given to that level of need, and then the budget is based on that level of need. Of course, we are going through waiver redesign in Indiana right now. So this will change or when that process is complete. But for now, that is the current, for people with autism, those are the two waivers that are currently most popularly appropriate for people with autism.
So, I mean, like, what can you get on CIH that you can't get on FSW? And I know a lot of it is like home support, but I know there's issues with staffing and getting people that actually want to be staff. So I just don't want people to be like, okay, I've got this, now we're set, you know, like like it's still a process.
Yeah, it is still a process. It does give you a bigger budget, so you can access more respite care, more behavioral consultation, and more PAC services, and so more assistance in the home. But yes, unfortunately, staffing has been an issue. And even before COVID, staffing and DSPs, that's been an issue. One encouraging thing is that in this latest legislative session, the ARC and other coalition members were successful in getting a DSP wage increase passed through the legislature. And as a result of that, also the family supports waiver limit budget was also increased to accommodate that DSP wage increase. So, families were worried that, oh, if you increase wages for DSPs, then we'll get less services. No. The budget for the waivers will increase to accommodate those wage increases so that it's neutral in terms of how much services you can access. So that DSP wage increase is a good thing because it's not going to affect how much it's going to make your waiver budget go up to accommodate that wage increase, but it's going to help providers attract more DSPs. Because if you have a budget, but you can't get anybody to work, it's not really doing you any good. Exactly. So being able to get those DSPs a better wage and was really important to helping families be able to access more services and be able to use the budget that they've been given versus waiting in limbo for when, they might be able to find staff.
So what happens if you apply for CIH and then you're denied?
You can appeal. So you can go through an appeal process, and the ARC, has helped folks with that. But yeah, there is an appeal process that you can do. And if you still do not win on an appeal process, you can always reapply if it's the, consensus of the person's team that this is necessary for them. And there are certain circumstances where you do you do qualify for a CIH waiver. Like if the caregiver main caregiver passes away over age 80, if they're aging out of an institutional placement, those kinds of things. And so, but in terms of having severe behavior, the category that if they don't meet the CIH waiver requirements for some of those caregiver issues and aging out of a particular placement, then you're looking at applying under the extraordinary health and safety risk category. And so that requires really looking at documentation of the extraordinary health and safety risk. And also the state's really going to look at what services have already been accessed to try to address that. So for example, if you're on a family supports waiver and the person is only using respite care and maybe music therapy or something else, but isn't using any behavior consultation or isn't engaged in ABA therapy on the medical side, then the state's going to want to know, what have you done behaviorally to try to address this? Why aren't you using the family supports waiver for behavioral consultation? So you'll want to be prepared to answer those types of questions and provide that type of documentation if you're applying for the CIH waiver under extraordinary health and safety risk.
Right. And the importance of that paper trail, because I know
yes,
they wanted to know, like, we're going to the ER, we have to call the ambulance, and sometimes police may be involved and things
exactly. Yes. Yeah.
So
incident reports from school, incident reports from the waiver system, medical records, those kinds of things. Yes.
So what kind of things change when a person turns 18? Because I know we have a lot of adults that are just turning 18. So what kind of issues does that bring about?
Becoming an adult, you definitely need to be looking into in advance of turning 18, making sure to apply for Social Security, because our state is now one of the states that uses the Social Security Administration to determine disability. So you don't want your loved one to lose their Medicaid or lose their waiver because they haven't applied for Social Security and gotten approved for Social Security. So you'll want to make sure to do that and start filling out that paperwork in advance of their 18th birthday. So that's one of the big things that happens with turning 18. And then also looking into alternatives to guardianship and what is the most appropriate level of support for the adult in terms of guardianship and the alternatives to that. I found in our transition, really full guardianship was the only alternative presented to us, but there's actually a whole array of support that a person with a disability can have that isn't as much control over their lives as and their personhood as full guardianship is. And while that is certainly appropriate for some people, it's really good to look at all of the alternatives to make sure that out of respect for your loved one's autonomy and personhood and rights, that you're truly using the least restrictive level of support that they need to be successful. And the ARC does an entire education session on alternatives to guardianship. And that is also something that families can call our family advocates to get information on, or can also get information on that on our website and through our videos as well, because there are several different options beyond full guardianship that might be appropriate.
I do have one question about that. Social Security took over the designation of disability. I know that was a big challenge the last few years. Is that getting better for families who are moving from the Medicaid to waiver to their children turning 18 to getting Social Security? Has it gotten a little easier for families? Because before it was a big challenge to all of a sudden they were getting cut off from everything. Have you noticed a change in the last year about that?
Yeah, we have noticed that it is getting a little bit easier. I think just because there's also more awareness that that's now part of the process. And so families aren't getting as caught off guard that, oh my gosh, my loved one's 18 and a half and we didn't do this. No one told us we needed to do this kind of thing. So that's been helpful. We do see a lot of denials for individuals still, mainly over documentation. Because again, they're not going to meet your loved one and get to know them and ask them all kinds of questions and all of that. So it really comes down to medical records, and they only look at a certain time frame of medical records as well. So you want to make sure that I always encourage parents from a very young age to have your autism doctor, whether that is an autism specialist at Riley, or it is we go to Cincinnati Children's Hospital. They are an Indiana Medicaid provider. Kind of where your autism medical home is going to be. Have some doctor designated to be that, so that they are taking records on your loved one with autism and documenting how autism is affecting their life on at least an annual basis, so that you have that paper trail, so that when they're looking at the Social Security application, you have some medical records to document that this is a disabling condition for this individual and that they should qualify for that, so that you don't run into problems.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I have people dealing with that right now, and they're like, you can look at them and tell, and it's not that easy.
No, yeah, it's not that easy. And I wish it was. I wish there was a simpler system where you could just kind of send a video and say, here you go. But unfortunately, it's all in the documentation, the medical records. And so making sure that you have an autism doctor who is making that paper trail, that medical record, it will be very helpful. So not only for this process, but just in general, it will be very helpful, because we all, as parents, we all wish we lived forever, and we all wish that we will always be there whenever our loved one with autism needs something. But the reality is that that's not always going to be the case. And so that preparation can help reduce the stress of knowing that you've got some of those things documented, so that if someone else has to step in, they will at least have some things to go on.
So what if you don't have an autism doctor? I know we had a primary care physician that, knew the kids, and then they left their practice. So now we have someone that's not familiar with them. So what kind of documentation would you expect to have at a Social Security hearing?
You want to have the physician, and it can be a primary care doctor, just have them document every year how autism is affecting their functionality. Basically, is it affecting their ability to be successful in school, to be successful in going out in public, to be successful in doing things, that the skills that we learn as children that turn into job skills. Self-help skills. Can they dress themselves? Can they, make their own meals at age appropriate level? All of those things that document that they are not able to do kind of standard acts of daily living. And then also, of course, the behavioral issues that would prevent them from being able to function in a workplace. Behavioral issues that would, because that's really what they're looking for, is can this person sustain a job? Can they financially sustain themselves independently? And so documentation on the medical side of how autism affects that individual, that would lead them to not be able to engage in self-sustaining activity, self-sustaining employment.
You could probably pull records from different doctors, like multiple different doctors.
Oh, yeah. You can definitely pull records from multiple different doctors.
And do they also take information from the school?
I believe so, but I would have to double check on that.
Okay.
It's been a bit since I had to do this for my daughter, and I'm trying to remember. It's been a minute.
So how does the day program work for your daughter? Does she do that all day, every day, or?
She goes 2 days a week from 9 to 4 and has lunch there. So she packs a lunch and has lunch there, and they do music therapy, and they have some chickens on their grounds that they go out and take care of, and they have a big art room, and she loves art, so she's super happy about that. And it's a very behavior-based day program. It was founded by a behavior consultant who's a really, really good behavior consultant, and so their whole system is kind of based on the principles of behaviorism, and also based on the individual's hierarchy of needs. I believe it's Maslow hierarchy of needs. And so their whole philosophy is very respectful, and the way that they interact with the folks who attend is really cool to see. It's they really make everything a lot of fun. So she is just enjoying it and living her best life. So
Is that
yeah.
waiver like paid for by the waiver, or is
Yes.
that okay?
Yes, that's paid for by her family supports waiver.
And did you choose just 2 days, or is that something that's determined?
It was something that was determined based on a few things. With COVID, they changed some of their processes to help keep transmission low. So vaccinated staff and attendees are grouped together. Unvaccinated staff and attendees are grouped together. And so vaccinated attendees go full day, unvaccinated attendees go half day, so that they can be masked the entire time and aren't taking masks off to eat and things like that. So it had to do with some of their COVID protocol, but then also finding a social group that was some place that would be a good fit for my daughter and her interests and her functioning level. So so that was kind of how that worked out. Yeah, and also she's still doing 30 hours of ABA therapy per week. So we were looking at 2 days anyway to accommodate that. And so just between those, having to balance the medical and the day program, and then when they felt she would best fit into the day program, Thursday and Friday is where we landed.
So do you think, is it the same ABA that she's been with?
She's been with the Logos Institute, and then she moved to Little Star.
Okay, because
Yes.
I know it's kind of difficult to find it for the older.
Yeah, there are not every ABA therapy center will treat teens and adults. So it's a really important thing to ask when initially choosing an ABA therapy program, is what age cutoff that they have. They should be telling you that up front if they have an age cutoff, but sometimes that doesn't happen. But a lot of places will not treat someone over the age of 12. So it's definitely a good thing to ask what their age cutoff is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't have any more questions, and Denise hasn't popped back.
Yay, technology.
Yeah.
It's so great when it works.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this with us.
Oh, you're so welcome. And I'm happy to come back and talk about any topic in more detail that would be of interest to your group. And if your group would like to have the ARC, do a session on waivers or CIH or how to apply, in more detail, just let us know. We'll be happy to do that.
Oh, I do have one question. Sorry.
Yeah.
So a lot of our parents don't have a whole lot of time for advocacy, but we're trying to say there's little things that you can do. So what can someone do that doesn't have a lot of time?
It doesn't have a lot of time. Yeah. I think one thing that parents can really do if they don't have a lot of time is sign up for advocacy alerts through the ARC or through Autism Speaks or through Autism Society. And a lot of times they'll send out these kind of advocacy notices like, Congress is going to vote on increasing. I got one from there's a national organization that's for people with severe autism. And after COVID, they decided to increase the home and community-based waiver budget, but not the budgets for residential facilities where, people with much more severe autism may need more than a home and community-based waiver. And so this organization sent out an advocacy alert. Hey, can you email your congressman or woman to ask them to help advocate for increasing those budgets as well. And that usually if you sign up, it takes a couple clicks of your thumb on your phone and you send the email that they've already put together for you. You put in a little bit of personal information and out it goes. And usually you can do it in a minute or less. And so that I would say pick one organization that you feel connected to, that you feel benefits your child the most or your loved one the most. Sign up for their advocacy alerts, and then, you know, make it a point to respond to them if it's something you support, because that's something that can be done in a minute or less.
Okay. And then I know we're short on time here again, but how do you know who to contact about what? I mean, that's a really good resource, but if you do have the time, how do you, like, I could contact the governor and he doesn't necessarily care about what I'm talking about, or this congressman is like not, you know, how do you figure out who does what?
Yeah. The two big divides really are, is it a federal issue or is it a state issue? So if it's waivers and it's Medicaid, that's mostly administered by the states. And so you're going to want to start with your state level people and get to know your local representative, your local Indiana senator, your Indiana General Assembly person. They will come and meet with you. They will come and meet your child. And it's good for them to meet a constituent and see what their life is like so that they can picture that person when they're voting on different bills. And I guess they kind of always say politics is always local. I think if you have really limited time, that's the thing I would spend my time on, is get to know your local Indiana General Assembly House person and senator, and make a connection with them. I have coffee with mine once a year just to pick her brain about stuff and say, hey, I have a little wish list. Would you maybe put this in a bill?
Awesome. I didn't know that they would meet. So
yeah, they will. I mean, with COVID, everything, COVID's been totally disrupted, but you know, a quick Zoom or email, or a lot of them are doing town halls and trying to do Zoom town halls. So try and get on the agenda for one of those and tell your story for a couple minutes. And then once COVID eases up a little bit and more people get vaccinated and all that good stuff, then, you know, we might be able to get back to those face-to-face meetings with them. But I highly encourage you to do that, because most are willing to. If they're not willing to, that might tell you something, but most are willing to. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now we are down to a minute and a half, I think. So, well, thank you so much for being with us. And we'll definitely
you're
reach
so
out.
welcome. Yes, please do. Happy to help. Yep. And
All right.
just call the ARC. And if it's not something we do, we'll get you to the right people.
Perfect. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.